Rupert Murdoch is one of the most powerful, most feared business tycoons around. But none of that could save his Sunday paper, the news of the world, as the phone hacking scandal just got worse and worse. Last weekend, he was forced to close it down, and now the entire Murdoch empire is under siege. But it wasn't the high and mighty who pulled the rug out from under him. As Ray Martin reports, it was public opinion, average, everyday people who finally said, that's it, that's enough.
Australia's homegrown media mogul, Rupert Murdoch, built his global empire on tabloid newspapers.
Do you walk this fast all the time?
Only when I'm running away from you guys.
It was the muckraking news of the world that kick-started his reign as the Baron of London's Fleet Street, and some say the most powerful man in Britain.
If you just keep silent for a minute.
But this week, the tables turned.
Mr. Murdoch, confidential pressure here.
Murdoch became the headline.
You've already apologised.
And swept up in a runaway scandal, had to shut down the news of the world forever.
It's revolting. You know, I like to feel proud of our country and proud of our democracy. And here we are with a democratic system that has had, for a very long time, a massive cancer in its side.
Celebrities like Hugh Grant, so often the fodder of the tabloids, were the first to cry enough, claiming the Murdoch press had long ago slipped from the gutter into the sewer.
Ow, Jesus, that wasn't cool.
Do you accept that celebrities like Hugh Grant and politicians, even the Prime Minister, are fair game?
I don't, as it happens, believe they're fair game. I think that if you have a little bit of success in whatever field you're in, I don't think that that is a reason why one of your most fundamental human rights, i.e. privacy, should be taken away from you.
In its 168-year history, the news of the world boasted many of Britain's most sensational scoops. It's now clear where some of them came from. The newspaper's reporters often hacked illegally into private telephone conversations or personal records, and the victims, at least 4,000 of them, are only just finding out. Why have you gone on the front foot on this one?
Well, it began as a personal grievance because my phone was hacked and medical records stolen, etc. But it became, the more I found out about it, the more outraged I also was just on behalf of my country. I couldn't really believe that both our police and our government had been so obedient to one media baron.
Hacking the stars for celebrity gossip was just the tip of the tabloid iceberg.
Back away, back away, back away.
While a police officer, did you ever receive payment?
Absolutely not.
What's been revealed is a widespread network of journalists, police and government authorities dealing in stolen information.
I categorically state that was not the case.
The most I've ever paid in cash was 30,000 quid, 2 carry bags, 15 grand in each. Thank you very much.
£30,000?
30 grand. So that's a big carrot to dangle in front of anyone, a policeman, anyone. Slightly more acceptable pint.
Paul McMullen is an old-school Murdoch journalist, once a senior reporter on the news of the world. He openly admits that the paper paid police officers for information and for the private phone numbers of media targets.
It was great fun. It was seen as a laugh. Hacking into someone's phone was just a laugh, and 90% of the celebrities are really cool with it as well. I mean, like Brad Pitt doesn't seem to mind, but more recently we've got people like Hugh Grant. You know, they've led meaningless, shallow lives for most of their careers. Now all of a sudden, oh well, we can get public sympathy on our side.
So hacking the phones of politicians or celebrities is okay by you, even though it's against the law?
Well, in my book, yes. I think there should be a grey area that would benefit democracy and freedom of speech that journalists should be allowed to enter into.
I came in today voluntarily.
But it's not high-profile celebrities who've sparked a major parliamentary investigation.
That's all I can say.
Arrests and resignations at the very top of the News International empire.
I'm not making any comments.
What really got Britons baying for Rupert Murdoch's blood was his newspaper's appalling treatment of ordinary people facing real-life tragedy.
It was in fact ordinary people who were being affected, and there was certain cruelty.
Mark Lewis is the lawyer for the family of 13-year-old Millie Dowler, who was murdered in 2002.
This is a campaign for proper standards in the press, not intrusion into people's life.
When Millie went missing, a private investigator working for the News of the World hacked into her phone. And he not only listened to her voicemail, but he deleted messages, clearing space for more calls. Millie's family, seeing this phone activity, were given false hope that their little girl was still alive.
The voicemails were all full, and there was an automated message saying, "Sorry, please try again later." And then the next day, the next time they called, they could leave a message, and that made them think that Millie was alive.
Because the News of the World reporter had actually deleted the messages.
And that was cruelty. That was somebody looking to get a story, irrespective of the harm. It was callous.
I never really defended the hacking into Millie Dowler, the little girl who went missing and was found murdered. While that is indefensible, fundamentally the newspaper and the journalists were just trying to find the little girl.
But Paul, they were deleting messages, so the parents thought that maybe she was alive.
Yeah, no, look, none of that is... if I tried to defend it, I'd get a punch in the face, you know.
Now, if you're wondering how these journalists hacked into thousands and thousands of phones, well, I'm told that it's dead easy. All I have to do is ring your phone, and I keep ringing until I get your message bank. And then I punch in the default PIN code. Every telephone company has one, and if you're like me, you don't change them. So let's say it's 1111. I punch that in, and suddenly, bingo, I'm in your message bank. So I can hear everybody who rang you, what they said, and you don't even know.
Once they'd figured out how to do it, it seems there was no depth the newspaper wouldn't plumb. Anyone was fair game.
Tell me about David. Sorry. I'm sure every father says that their son was the best son in the world. All I can tell you is that they're wrong, I'm right.
Manchester magistrate Graham Folks lost his 22-year-old son David in the London subway bombings of 2005. It was Britain's worst ever terrorist attack. For 6 days, Graham and his wife made hundreds of phone calls, desperately trying to find their only son.
If anybody was listening to the phone calls from my mobile or my home phone to David's landline, to David's mobile, would have heard me begging for David to contact me. And other such messages, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes.
Anything that's in stone is the town hall, yes.
And someone was listening. Graham was shocked to discover that his heart-wrenching cries for help had been intercepted by Murdoch journalists.
I cannot understand how somebody's morals are such that they think that is a good day's work.
And even worse, he now fears, in the midst of his family's agonising ordeal, the police sold their private telephone numbers.
It is wicked beyond wicked. I mean, today as we're talking, it's 9 days now since this was told to me, and I'm still absolutely enraged with News of the World.
People were suffering the most incredible hurt. They were going through tragedies, and all that the News of the World were interested in was selling a newspaper, heaping tragedy upon tragedy.
Phones belonging to the wives of British soldiers killed in action have also been hacked. And in America, the FBI is now investigating claims that Murdoch reporters tried to hack the phones of September 11 victims.
Murder victims, terrorist victims who've had their phones hacked is quite disgraceful. That is why
they're acts of bastardry that the British nation can barely comprehend.
Order!
Even Prime Minister David Cameron has been voicing anti-Murdoch outrage. Until now, something that was unthinkable for a British politician.
What has happened at this company is disgraceful. It's got to be addressed at every level.
Rupert Murdoch and his newspapers have such political clout that every leader since Margaret Thatcher has been careful to keep him on side.
If you run what is not very far away from being a protection racket, as a news business, you can exert enormous power over politicians, enormous influence over them.
Protection racket. That's a pretty big call.
Yes, but politicians for a long time have been bending over backwards in the most undignified positions to be nice to Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch is effectively the kingmaker, and he can control who is the Prime Minister of Britain.
It's hard to believe this went on in a democracy like Britain.
Well, we almost get to what I've termed as a Murdocracy. The people are scared of the power of Rupert Murdoch, scared of the power of the press.
Politicians and the press have spent time courting support, not confronting the problems. Well, it's on my watch that the music has stopped.
The spreading scandal has already damaged Prime Minister Cameron. Andy Coulson, his former head of communications, is now facing criminal charges. Coulson was a former News of the World editor. And the PM spent last Christmas with Rebekah Brooks. Until her shock resignation 2 days ago, she was the chief executive at News International.
Good evening. How are you?
Brooks is also a former editor of the News of the World, but she claims she had no idea what her journalists were up to.
She turns round and says, "Oh, were our reporters doing that? I didn't know." It's like, what? Come on, love.
Paul McMullen was one of Rebekah Brooks' team of reporters. So far, he's the only one willing to come clean.
Do you think that Rebekah Brooks would have known that these private investigators were being paid £100,000?
God, she'd have to have been the worst features editor in the world not to have known how you can pay £100,000 and not know what. Well, no, it's just ridiculous. Of course she did.
As Andy Coulson, who was the deputy and then the editor of the paper, had to know.
Yeah, absolutely. He knew, ordered it.
Thanks, mate.
My pleasure, thank you very much.
What's been the reaction?
Well, people are disgusted. If all this is true, the sales of the papers, Murdoch papers, have just plummeted.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. The British dailies, page after page, are filled with the unravelling of this story. It's now gone from England to America, which is the headquarters of News Corporation. But maybe, like Watergate, which brought down an American president, the real story is not the original crime, but the attempts to cover it up.
This week, a British parliamentary inquiry will try to open the lid on that cover-up. And already, the Empire is in damage control. Rupert's eldest son, Lachlan, has flown in from Australia, just in time to see his father make a belated personal apology to Millie Dowler's family.
Further, I just said that founder of the company, I was appalled to find out what had happened. And I apologise, and I have nothing further to say.
This weekend, Rupert Murdoch made an unprecedented, extraordinary apology, with full-page ads in every newspaper in Britain, not just the ones he owns.
But the result was that the paper had let down its readers. Murdoch, confess your pressure here.
There's little doubt that the Murdoch empire will survive this scandal. But those whose private lives and intimate moments were bought and sold aren't about to forgive or forget.
I am after revenge. I don't deny that for a second. And I think that any man who's had his voicemail hacked or his privacy stolen for someone else's profit, if he's any kind of man, you know, is angry. If you find a burglar in your house, you reach for a cricket bat and you want to smack him round the head.
What about Mr. Murdoch, if he was sitting here? What would you be telling him?
He needs to convince me that he now understands what they've done and why it is so wrong. We wake up in the morning and still think, my God, somebody was listening to us at the darkest time of our life. How could anybody do that?
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.